The Enlightenment, also known as the Age of Reason, was an intellectual and cultural movement that flourished in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. It marked a shift away from traditional authority, superstition, and religious dogma, emphasizing reason, individualism, and scientific inquiry as the primary sources of authority and knowledge. The Enlightenment profoundly influenced various aspects of society, including politics, philosophy, science, and the arts, laying the groundwork for modern democracies and shaping the trajectory of the modern world. Origins and historical context. The Enlightenment emerged in the aftermath of the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Scientific Revolution. These earlier movements had already challenged established authority and encouraged critical thinking. The Renaissance revived interest in classical antiquity, humanism, and the potential of human achievement, while the Reformation questioned the authority of the Catholic Church and emphasized personal faith and scripture. The scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries further transformed thought by introducing the scientific method, challenging Aristotelian physics, and advancing knowledge in astronomy, physics, and biology. The political and social upheavals of the 17th century also provided fertile ground for Enlightenment ideas. Events such as the English Civil War, the Glorious Revolution, and the rise of constitutional monarchies highlighted the need for new political theories that could balance authority and individual rights. Furthermore, the expanding global trade networks and colonial enterprises exposed Europeans to diverse cultures, sparking debates about universal human nature and rights. The Enlightenment was characterized by several core themes. 1. Reason and rationality. Enlightenment thinkers believed that reason and rational thought could lead to progress in the betterment of society. They rejected superstition and blind faith, advocating for critical thinking and empirical evidence. 2. Skepticism and secularism. Enlightenment intellectuals often questioned religious authority and traditional dogmas. While not all were atheists, many promoted secularism and sought to separate religion from the state. 3. Progress and optimism. Enlightenment thinkers were generally optimistic about humanity's ability to improve society through education, science, and reforms. They believed in progress as a continuous process. 4. Individual rights and liberties. The Enlightenment emphasized the importance of individual freedoms, including freedom of speech, religion, and press, as well as the right to self-determination. 5. Social and political reform. Many Enlightenment thinkers sought to reform political systems, advocating for ideas such as democracy, constitutionalism, and the separation of powers. 6. Equality and human dignity. Although limited by the prevailing biases of their time, Enlightenment thinkers promoted ideas of equality, arguing for the abolition of feudal privileges and, in some cases, slavery. Key figures of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was not a unified movement, and its thinkers, known as philosophers, held diverse and sometimes conflicting views. However, several key figures profoundly shaped its intellectual landscape. John Locke, 1632 to 1704, an English philosopher, Locke is often considered the father of liberalism. His ideas on natural rights, including life, liberty, and property, influenced democratic movements and the development of modern political thought. In his two treatises of government, Locke argued that governments derive their legitimacy from the consent of the governed. Voltaire, 1694 to 1778, a French writer and satirist, Voltaire was a vocal critic of religious intolerance and absolute monarchy. He championed freedom of speech, religious tolerance, and the separation of church and state. His wit and eloquence made him one of the most influential figures of the Enlightenment. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1712 to 1778. Rousseau's work emphasized the importance of the social contract and the idea that sovereignty resides in the people. His influential book, The Social Contract, argued that legitimate political authority stems from the general will of the populace. Rousseau also wrote about education and the natural goodness of humans. Baron de Montesquieu, 1689 to 1755. Montesquieu's work, The Spirit of the Laws, introduced the idea of the separation of powers within government. He advocated dividing government into legislative, executive, and judicial branches to prevent tyranny. Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804, a German philosopher, Kant explored the limits of human knowledge and the relationship between reason and morality. His essay, What is Enlightenment?, famously defined the Enlightenment as humanity's emergence from self-imposed immaturity. Denis Diderot, 1713 to 1784. Diderot was the editor of the Encyclopédie, a monumental work that sought to compile and disseminate human knowledge. The Encyclopédie embodied the Enlightenment's commitment to education and rational inquiry. Adam Smith, 1723 to 1790, known as the father of economics, Smith's The Wealth of Nations laid the foundations of modern economic theory. He argued for free markets and the concept of the invisible hand guiding economic activity. Impact on politics and society. The Enlightenment had a profound impact on political thought and practice. Its emphasis on reason and individual rights inspired democratic revolutions and movements for political reform. In the American colonies, Enlightenment ideals influenced the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and other founding fathers were deeply influenced by Locke, Montesquieu, and other Enlightenment thinkers. In France, Enlightenment ideas contributed to the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789. Revolutionary leaders drew on Rousseau's concept of popular sovereignty and Montesquieu's ideas about the separation of powers. However, the French Revolution also highlighted the limitations and contradictions of Enlightenment thought, as the pursuit of liberty and equality sometimes gave way to violence and authoritarianism. The Enlightenment also had a significant impact on education, science, and culture. It promoted the establishment of academies, libraries, and universities, making knowledge more accessible. Scientific societies and journals flourished, and figures like Isaac Newton became celebrated icons of human achievement. In the arts, the Enlightenment encouraged styles such as neoclassicism, which sought to emulate the rational order and simplicity of ancient Greece and Rome. Criticism and limitations. While the Enlightenment championed many progressive ideas, it was not without its critics and limitations. Romantic thinkers such as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and William Blake challenged its emphasis on reason, arguing that it overlooked emotions, imagination, and the spiritual dimension of human experience. Moreover, Enlightenment thinkers often failed to fully address issues of social inequality, colonialism, and gender. Although some, like Mary Wollstonecraft, advocated for women's rights, most Enlightenment thought was grounded in a patriarchal framework. Similarly, while many philosophies criticized slavery, others rationalized it or remained silent on the issue. Legacy of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment left a lasting legacy that continues to shape the modern world. Its emphasis on reason, science, and human rights provided the foundation for liberal democracy, secular governance, and modern scientific inquiry. Many of its ideals, such as freedom of expression, equality before the law, and the value of education, remain central to contemporary political and social thought. At the same time, the Enlightenment's contradictions and blind spots remind us of the need for critical reflection. The movement's emphasis on universality sometimes masked its Eurocentrism and exclusion of marginalized groups. Nevertheless, the Enlightenment's enduring impact on human history underscores its importance as a transformative period that reshaped the way people think about themselves and the world. In conclusion, the Enlightenment was a dynamic and multifaceted era that challenged traditional authority and laid the intellectual groundwork for modernity. By promoting reason, progress, and individual rights, it revolutionized politics, science, and culture, leaving an indelible mark on history. Its legacy continues to inspire and provoke debate, making it a vital chapter in the story of human progress.